The ancient human supercarrier's immense railguns roared to life, unleashing a fury of hypersonic tungsten death that the Zarantine fleet was never built to withstand. The technologically advanced Zarantine Empire thought they had discovered nothing more than a relic, an abandoned derelict from a long-extinct species called humans. The massive ship was larger than anything the Zarantines had ever constructed. It dwarfed their mightiest warships as it drifted powerless through the void. Zephyr, commander of the Zarantine fleet that stumbled upon the ship, ordered it towed to a shipyard for study. His scientists and engineers swarmed over the vessel, fascinated by its advanced weapons systems and resilient hull, built to weather the ravages of combat. But the Zarantines dismissed it as an obsolete artifact, a lifeless reminder of a species that once challenged the stars. News of the mysterious ship eventually reached a man named Stephen Bryant. He was a human, a scout, operating in secret among the Zarantine worlds with a vital mission. Bryant recognized the vessel immediately as the legendary USS Odyssey. It was an early human supercarrier, a renowned explorer, thought lost and destroyed centuries past. No other human ship was so immense, its armaments so destructive, its technology so far advanced beyond known science. Bryant knew the Odyssey and her secrets could change everything. He infiltrated the Zarantine shipyard, snuck aboard her massive hull, still scarred from ancient battles. When he reached the supercarrier's engineering decks and fusion core, he found it intact and functional. He slowly brought the reactors back online, diverting power to systems that had lain dormant for lifetimes. Alarms screeched through the shipyard as the Odyssey reawakened. On the bridge, Zephyr barked orders to regain control of the vessel, realizing far too late the terrible danger it posed. Fighters and boarding crews surged towards the human ship, but Bryant was already at the helm, the weapons and engines responding to his command. Fusion drives flared to life with the brightness of a star. Immense thrusters fired, tearing the Odyssey free from her restraints with a shower of twisted metal. The Zarantine fleet opened fire as the supercarrier accelerated to attack speed. But even their heaviest cannons proved useless against the Odyssey's nigh-impenetrable energy shielding. Zephyr could only watch in dawning horror as the railguns spoke once more. Each slug was a meter of solid tungsten accelerated to a significant fraction of light speed. They ripped through Zarantine hulls effortlessly, shattering armored bulkheads, decompressing compartments, setting off secondary explosions. In moments, it was over. The entire Zarantine battle group lay as expanding clouds of debris. Desperately, Zephyr began rallying all nearby warships, calling in every fleet in range. The Zarantine Empire would crush this upstart human and seize the Odyssey. They would unlock its technological secrets and turn them to conquest. It was a matter of survival. But Bryant was already plotting a course, the navigation computer pulling up old star charts, pathways through uncharted anomalies and cosmic strings. If he could reach the nearest human colony, warn them, the Terran Alliance could muster its strength. The threat would be met. If he failed, humanity would be caught unprepared, and nothing would stand against the wrath of the Zarantine Armada. The Odyssey was their only hope, a relic reborn. As the Odyssey raced through Zarantine space, Bryant hunched over the helm controls, sweat beading on his forehead. The ship shuddered as her immense engines pushed her faster. But even at maximum burn, Bryant knew the Zarantine fleet was not far behind. "Athena, status report," he barked, hands flying over the unfamiliar consoles. "Weapon systems at 85% power and climbing." The AI's melodic voice responded instantly. "Shields holding steady. Engineering reports the main reactor is operating at peak efficiency." Bryant nodded, relieved that the ancient vessel was coming back to life under his command. But they were not out of danger yet. What about the FTL drive? Navigation? He knew their best chance was to outrun the Zarantine pursuit, to vanish into the void before they could be trapped. "Drive spinning up now," Athena confirmed, plotting multiple potential courses to human space. "I've also identified an anomaly in our path that could disrupt Zarantine sensors if we pass through it." Bryant grinned despite the tension. The AI was proving invaluable, her knowledge of the ship and grasp of tactics far beyond his own. Together they might just survive this. But even as hope kindled in his chest, the sensors screamed a warning. The view screen flared to life, showing a cluster of angular warships dropping out of hyperspeed directly ahead. Their hulls bristled with weapons already glowing hot. "Evasive maneuvers!" Bryant yelled, wrenching the Odyssey into a stomach-churning spiral. The Zarantine fleet opened fire, lances of plasma scorching the void. Most went wide, but several impacted the Odyssey's shields in blinding flashes, making the deck shudder under Bryant's feet. He gritted his teeth, hands flying over the weapon's controls. The Odyssey's own guns roared to life in response. Railgun rounds ripped through Zarantine hulls like they were paper. Missiles corkscrewed through the black, slamming into enemy ships with blossoms of flame. One by one, the Zarantine vessels broke apart, hulls shattered, atmosphere venting in hissing plumes. The Odyssey swept through their formation, prow smashing through a frigate too slow to evade. Metal crumpled, energy shields flared and died. And then they were past, the Zarantine fleet reduced to expanding clouds of debris in their wake. Bryant let out a shuddering breath, hands shaking on the controls. "Damage report," he managed. "Shields at 60%, Athena replied calmly. "No hull breaches. Minor damage to forward batteries." It was a relief, but Bryant knew it was only the beginning. The Zarantines would not give up so easily. Not now that they had seen what the Odyssey could do, what she represented. Commander Zephyr stood rigidly on the bridge of his flagship, watching the sensor displays with mounting fury. The human ship had decimated his advance force, swatting his ships from the sky with contemptuous ease. "Analysis," he snapped at his science officer. "How are they generating so much power? How did their weapons penetrate our shields so easily?" The officer hunched over his console, clawed hands dancing over the controls. "The human vessel appears to utilize an unknown form of reactor technology," he reported nervously. "Our scans cannot penetrate the shielding, and their projectile weapons, the velocity is immense, far beyond what our own magnetic drivers can achieve." Zephyr hissed in frustration. The human ship was an enigma, a ghost from the past that now threatened the very future of the Zarantine Empire. He could not allow it to escape, could not permit this upstart race to challenge Zarantine supremacy. "Bring all nearby ships to my coordinates," he ordered, watching the Odyssey accelerate away on the display. "Ready graviton projectors and interdiction fields. We will ensnare this human vessel like a fly in a web." His crew rushed to obey, the thrill of the hunt replacing their fear. The Zarantine fleet was vast, their technology unmatched. They would run this human ship to ground. And when they did, Commander Zephyr would claim the Odyssey as his own. He would seize its secrets, and the Zarantine Empire would become truly invincible. But Bryant had no intention of being caught. With Athena's help, he pushed the Odyssey's systems to their limits. The ancient ship groaned and shuddered, but held together as she hurtled through Zarantine space. Zephyr's fleet dogged their heels, the graviton projectors and interdiction fields threatening to drag them back with every light year. But Athena plotted paths through stellar anomalies and gravity wells, using the cosmic terrain against their pursuers. Plasma storms swallowed Zarantine ships whole. Singularities scattered their formations. The Odyssey danced through it all, the ghost of a lost age outpacing the most advanced warships in the galaxy. And with each passing hour, they drew closer to the edge of Zarantine space. Closer to the haven Athena promised. The hidden outpost where humanity still survived. Still planned and plotted against the powers that sought to grind them into dust. Bryant only hoped they would reach it in time, that the Odyssey's reappearance would be the rallying cry humanity so desperately needed. If not, if Zephyr caught them first, he refused to consider it. The Odyssey had to survive, for she carried more than just a crew or a cargo. She carried the dreams of a species, dreams of freedom, of a future among the stars. The Odyssey docked at the hidden human outpost, her hull still scorched from battle. As repair crews swarmed over the massive ship, Bryant stepped onto the station, his legs wobbly after days at the helm. Admiral Hawkins greeted him with a firm handshake. "Well done, son. You've given us a fighting chance." "Thank you, sir, but what now?" Hawkins led Bryant through winding corridors, Now we hit back, hard. They entered a dimly lit room where 5 figures stood around a holographic display. Hawkins gestured to them. "Stephen Bryant, meet the Phantom Squad." The squad leader, a scarred woman with close-cropped hair, nodded curtly. "Glad you made it. I'm Major Sarah Chen. We've got work to do." For hours, they pored over intel the Phantoms had gathered on Zarantine supply lines and military installations. Bryant's mind reeled at the scope of their plan. "We'll use the Odyssey's stealth systems to slip past their perimeter defenses," Chen explained. "Then we strike their shipyards at Centauri Prime, cut off their ability to replace lost ships." Bryant frowned. "The Zarantines will be on high alert after our escape. How do we avoid detection?" A lanky man with cybernetic eyes grinned. "Leave that to me. Name's Hacker. I'll blind their sensors 6 ways from Sunday." As they finalized the assault plans, alarms blared throughout the station. A young officer burst in. "Sir, we're receiving distress calls. Zarantine forces are attacking human colonies." Hawkins's face hardened. "Zephyr, he's trying to draw us out." Bryant clenched his fists. "We can't just let them die." "We won't," Chen assured him, "but we stick to the plan. Hit them where it hurts most." Weeks passed as the Odyssey underwent upgrades. New armor plating, enhanced shields, recalibrated weapons. Bryant spent every waking moment training with the Phantom Squad, learning their infiltration techniques. Finally, they were ready. The Odyssey slipped silently into Zarantine space, cloaked from all sensors. They found their first target, a massive convoy ferrying resources to the shipyards. "Weapons hot," Bryant ordered from the bridge. "Fire on my mark." The Odyssey's guns roared to life, tearing through the unprotected supply ships. Explosions blossomed in the void as vital materials were reduced to space debris. For days they struck and faded, always one step ahead of Zarantine patrols. But Zephyr was cunning. He set a trap, using a heavily fortified space station as bait. "It's too quiet," Chen muttered as they approached. "I don't like it." Bryant nodded grimly. "Neither do I. But we can turn this trap against them. Hacker, you ready?" The cyborg cracked his knuckles. "Born ready, boss." As the Odyssey engaged the station's outer defenses, Bryant led the Phantom Squad to the teleporter room. In a flash of light, they materialized deep within the enemy fortress. Alarms blared as they fought their way to the central control hub. Hackers' fingers flew over alien consoles, disabling weapons and shields. "Done!" he shouted. "This place is wide open." They beamed back to the Odyssey just as her main guns opened fire. The station crumbled under the assault, taking a large chunk of Zephyr's fleet with it. But the Zarantine commander escaped, fleeing to his homeworld in disgrace. The Phantom Squad intercepted transmissions. The aliens were mobilizing for all-out war. Back at the outpost, Bryant and Hawkins received the grim news. "If we don't unite now, we're finished," Hawkins said, dispatching envoys to scattered human colonies. Bryant stared out at the stars, the weight of humanity's future heavy on his shoulders. The Odyssey hummed beneath his feet, ready for the battles to come. "We'll be ready," he vowed, "whatever it takes." "We can't sit back and wait for the Zarantines to crush us," Admiral Hawkins declared, smacking his palm on the holographic display. "We need to hit them hard and fast." Bryant nodded, studying the strategic map. "Agreed, but our forces are scattered. How can we mount an effective assault?" Hawkins's eyes gleamed. "We use the Odyssey. She's our ace in the hole. With her stealth capabilities, we can slip past their defenses and strike at the heart of their war machine." Over the next several days, Bryant worked tirelessly to assemble a strike force. The hangar bay of the hidden outpost buzzed with activity as ships arrived, sleek stealth frigates and heavily armed cruisers joining the Odyssey. "How's the fleet coming along?" Chen asked, striding up to Bryant as he supervised the loading of supplies. "We're almost ready," Bryant replied, "but this mission, it's risky as hell." Chen grinned. "That's why you've got us. The Phantom Squad will pave the way." As the human fleet prepared to depart, Bryant gathered his crew on the Odyssey's bridge. I won't lie to you. This mission could well be a one-way trip, but if we succeed, we buy humanity a fighting chance. The journey through Zarantine space was tense, the fleet relying on the Odyssey's advanced cloaking technology to avoid detection. But as they approached their target, a massive shipyard complex, alarms blared. "Multiple contacts incoming," the sensor officer shouted. "It's a trap." Bryant's hands tightened on the command chair. "All ships, battle stations, Phantom Squad, commence your infiltration." The space around the shipyard erupted in chaos. Human ships engaged Zarantine vessels in furious combat, energy weapons lancing through the void. On the Odyssey's bridge, Bryant barked orders as the ancient warship unleashed its firepower. Meanwhile, Chen led her team through the bowels of the Zarantine facility, planting explosives and sabotaging systems. "Almost done," she reported. "We just need a few more minutes." But time had run out. A massive energy signature suddenly flared to life. "Sir!" the Odyssey's science officer called out. "The Zarantines are powering up some kind of weapon." Bryant watched in horror as a wave of gravitational distortion swept across the battlefield. Human ships tumbled helplessly, their systems failing. "Athena!" Bryant shouted. "We need options!" "The quantum drive is our only chance," the AI replied. "But sir, using it here could have unpredictable consequences." Bryant grimaced. It was that or certain death. "Do it!" Reality itself seemed to tear as the Odyssey engaged its experimental drive. A handful of nearby human ships were pulled along in its wake as they vanished into a subspace rift. When they emerged, Bryant's heart sank. The Odyssey and a few other vessels had escaped, but the rest of the fleet was gone, either destroyed or captured by the Zarantines. Days later, a battered Odyssey limped back to the hidden outpost. In the command center, Bryant and Hawkins surveyed the grim reports. "We underestimated them," Hawkins said quietly, "and it cost us dearly." Bryant nodded, his face haggard. "So what now?" Hawkins straightened, his eyes hardening with tenacity. "We adapt. We survive. Hit-and-run tactics, guerrilla warfare. We keep the Zarantines off balance while we rebuild." "And the crews we left behind?" "We get them back," Hawkins vowed, "starting now." As Bryant left to brief the Phantom Squad on their new mission, he knew the real war had only just begun. The Odyssey would become a ghost, striking from the shadows, and somehow they would find a way to turn the tide. Bryant's boots clanged on the metal floor as he strode into the war room. Admiral Hawkins stood hunched over a holographic display, his weathered face etched with concern. "We can't keep throwing ships at them," Hawkins said, not looking up. "We're running out of resources, and fast." Bryant nodded, studying the tactical readouts. "I have an idea, sir. The Odyssey's stealth systems are unlike anything the Zarantines have seen. We could use that to our advantage." Hawkins raised an eyebrow. "Go on." "Instead of direct confrontation, we hit their supply lines. Mining colonies, energy facilities, the backbone of their war machine." The Admiral's eyes lit up. "Guerrilla tactics. It could work, but we'll need a specialized team." Over the next few days, Bryant assembled his strike force. Chen and her Phantom Squad formed the core, supplemented by the sharpest engineers and techs from the human fleet. As they prepared, reports trickled in of Zarantine search parties scouring nearby systems. Zephyr was on the hunt. The Odyssey slipped silently through the void, her stealth systems rendering her invisible to Zarantine sensors. Their target, a sprawling mining complex on a resource-rich asteroid. Bryant's team donned sleek stealth suits, the materials seeming to bend light around them. They materialized inside the facility's main hub, startling a lone Zarantine technician. Chen's stunner dropped him before he could raise the alarm. "Fan out," Bryant ordered. "Hit their equipment, but stay quiet." The humans moved like ghosts through the facility. Hackers' fingers danced over alien consoles, shutting down safety systems. Engineers planted compact charges at key structural points. An alarm blared. "We've been made!" Chen shouted. Bryant keyed his comm. Initiate Phase 2. Everyone out now. As Zarantine security forces converged, the charges detonated. The entire facility shuddered. Vast mining platforms toppled. Storage silos ruptured, spewing valuable ore into space. The team beamed back to the Odyssey just as the colony's reactor went critical. They watched from a safe distance as the asteroid erupted in a silent ball of fire. Riding high on their success, Bryant set his sights on a bigger prize. The massive energy production complex powering Zarantine military bases across an entire sector. Intelligence from the Phantom Squad revealed a flaw in the facility's defenses, a maintenance conduit leading directly to the main reactor core. Using reverse-engineered Zarantine tech, Bryant's team slipped past the outer security grid. They navigated claustrophobic access tunnels, the hum of immense power growing louder. In the cavernous reactor chamber, Hacker plugged a data stick into a control panel. Virus uploading. We've got 2 minutes before their systems detect it. Bryant watched the progress bar tick upward. Sweat beaded on his forehead. Alarms shrieked. Intruder alert. All personnel to battle stations. Time to go, Bryant shouted. They sprinted for the extraction point, Zarantine energy bolts sizzling past them. The facility trembled as systems began to fail. Chen laid down covering fire as the others piled into their stealth shuttle. Move it, Bryant! He dove in just as the hatch sealed. The shuttle rocketed away, cloaking fields snapping into place. Behind them, the massive complex convulsed. Towering energy conduits ruptured. The central reactor went supercritical, vaporizing everything for kilometers. Back on the Odyssey, Bryant's team allowed themselves a moment of celebration. But the war was just getting started. On his flagship, Commander Zephyr seethed with rage. The loss of the energy complex was a crippling blow. Find them, he roared at his subordinates. I want every ship, every soldier hunting these human vermin. We will crush them, whatever it takes. As the Odyssey regrouped at a hidden rendezvous point, Bryant and his team pored over data for their next target. The success of their raids had given humanity a fighting chance, but Zephyr's wrath would soon be upon them. Bryant stared at the holographic display of the Zarantine command hub. His eyes narrowed in concentration. The massive structure floated in space, overflowing with defense turrets and sensor arrays. This is insane, Chen muttered, shaking her head. We'll be vaporized before we get within 1,000 kilometers. Not if we play this smart, Bryant replied, zooming in on a section of the facility. Look here. Their long-range sensors have a blind spot when recalibrating. If we time it right, we can slip the Odyssey in close enough to teleport. Admiral Hawkins nodded approvingly. It's risky as hell, but it might just work. When do we move? Tonight, Bryant said firmly. They won't expect us to hit such a high-value target so soon after our last raid. Hours later, the Odyssey glided silently through the void, her stealth systems at maximum power. On the bridge, Bryant gripped the arms of his chair as they approached the massive Zarantine installation. Sensor window opening in 30 seconds, the tactical officer reported. Bryant took a deep breath. Athena, prepare for emergency teleport on my mark. The AI's calm voice filled the bridge. Understood, Captain. Strike team is in position. As they closed in, alarms suddenly blared. Multiple contacts incoming, the sensor officer shouted. Zarantine patrol ships on an intercept course. Now, Bryant roared. A blinding flash engulfed the bridge as the teleporters activated. When Bryant's vision cleared, he found himself standing in the heart of the Zarantine command center. Alien technicians froze in shock, their insectoid features contorting in surprise. Chen's stunner dropped 2 guards before they could react. Control room secure! Bryant sprinted to a central console, inserting a data stick containing the virus. Hacker, you're up! The cyborg's fingers flew across the alien interface. Uploading now. This'll take a few minutes. Klaxons wailed as the facility's security systems detected the intrusion. Bryant's comm crackled with the voice of the Odyssey's first officer. Sir, we're taking heavy fire out here. We can't hold them off much longer. Just a little more time, Bryant growled, watching the virus's progress on a nearby screen. Suddenly, the massive doors to the control room began to slide open. Chen and her team took up defensive positions. "We've got company!" she shouted as energy bolts sizzled through the air. Bryant ducked behind a console, returning fire with his particle pistol. The acrid smell of ozone filled the air as the two sides exchanged volleys. "It's done!" Hacker yelled triumphantly. "The virus is in their system!" All around them, screens flickered and died as the malicious code spread through the Zarantine networks. Bryant slapped his communicator. "Odyssey, get us out of here!" Another flash, and they materialized back on their ship's teleport pad. Bryant stumbled to the bridge, barking orders. "Full power to engines! Get us clear!" The ancient warship surged forward, weaving through the confusion of disabled Zarantine vessels. As they jumped to FTL, Bryant allowed himself a grim smile. They'd struck a crippling blow, but the war was not nearly finished. Days later, in the stark chambers of the Zarantine capital, Commander Zephyr stood rigid before the Imperial Council. The towering insectoid figures loomed over him, their compound eyes glittering with barely contained fury. "You have failed us, Zephyr," the Empress hissed. "Your incompetence has cost us dearly." Zephyr's mandibles clicked in distress. "Your Majesty, I can explain—" "Silence!" the Empress roared. "You are stripped of your rank and exiled to the outer colonies. We will deal with these human vermin ourselves." As Zephyr was led away in chains, the Zarantine leadership convened to plan their next move. The humans had proven far more resourceful than anticipated. It was time to unleash the full might of the Empire. Back at the hidden human outpost, Bryant and Hawkins raised glasses of contraband liquor in a brief toast. "We bought ourselves some time," Hawkins said, his weathered face creased with worry. "But they'll be coming for us with everything they've got now." Bryant nodded grimly. "Then we'd better make every second count." He turned to a star chart, plotting their next move. The Odyssey hummed beneath his feet, ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. Bryant's eyes burned from lack of sleep as he stared at the tactical display. The holographic representation of the recent battle flickered, casting an eerie blue glow across the Odyssey's war room. "This can't go on," he muttered, rubbing his temples. Admiral Hawkins nodded grimly. "We've got reports coming in from our deep cover agents. It's worse than we thought." A series of images flashed across the screen. Massive Zarantine factories, their smokestacks belching toxic fumes as they churned out warships at an alarming rate. Crowds of civilian Zarantines being herded into military transports, their mandibles clicking in fear and confusion. "They're stripping entire planets bare," Hawkins continued. "Every resource, every able-bodied Zarantine. It's all going into the war effort." Bryant's fists clenched. "We need to act fast. Call the colony leaders, all of them." Hours later, the war room was packed. Human leaders from a dozen scattered colonies argued loudly, their voices rising in panic and anger. "We should surrender while we still can," shouted one, his face pale with fear. "Never," roared another. "We fight to the last man." Bryant slammed his hand on the table, silencing the room. "We do neither," he said firmly. "We stand together, or we fall alone. It's time to consolidate our forces." As the gravity of the situation sank in, the colony leaders grudgingly agreed. Bryant outlined his plan, pointing to key defensive positions on the star chart. "The Odyssey will serve as our flagship," he explained. "We'll gather every ship we have, pool our resources, and make our stand." The next weeks were a blur of activity. Bryant pushed the Odyssey to its limits, darting between hidden outposts and scattered fleets. More than once, they narrowly avoided Zarantine patrols, relying on the ship's advanced stealth systems to slip past undetected. On a distant mining colony, Bryant's team raced to load vital supplies as alarms blared. Zarantine ships dropped out of hyperspace, their weapons charging. "We're out of time," Chen shouted over the comms. "Get those last crates on board." Bryant sprinted up the loading ramp, particle rifle in hand. He fired a burst at an approaching Zarantine soldier, the energy blast dropping the alien in its tracks. "Go! Go! Go! He yelled as the ramp closed behind him. The Odyssey's engines roared to life, catapulting them into space mere seconds before Zarantine weapons fire obliterated the landing pad. Slowly but surely, the human fleet grew. Battered cruisers, nimble fighters, and even civilian ships retrofitted for combat. All converged on the rallying point. Bryant worked tirelessly with the Phantom Squad, integrating wildly different systems and training crews to work as a cohesive unit. But even as hope began to flicker, a new threat loomed. On the bridge of his massive flagship, Commander Zephyr chittered with barely contained rage. His compound eyes reflected the tactical display, showing the gathered human fleet. "At last," he hissed, "the vermin have made our job easier by clustering together." A subordinate approached, mandibles quivering nervously. "The new weapon is ready, Commander." Zephyr's eyes gleamed with malice. "Excellent. Plot a course for the human colony near the Centauri hyperspace corridor. We'll crush their pathetic resistance and use it as a staging ground for our final assault." Alarms blared throughout the Odyssey as sensors detected the approaching Zarantine armada. Bryant sprinted to the bridge, barking orders. "All ships, battle stations, this is not a drill!" The vast human fleet moved to intercept, energy weapons charging and missile tubes loading. As the two massive forces collided, space itself seemed to ignite. The Odyssey led the charge, its advanced targeting systems allowing it to strike with surgical precision. Human ships darted between lumbering Zarantine cruisers, exploiting weaknesses in their formations. But for every Zarantine ship they destroyed, two more took its place. The human fleet found itself slowly pushed back, straining under the relentless assault. Bryant gritted his teeth as another friendly ship winked out of existence on his tactical display. "Athena, we need options!" The AI's calm voice belied the desperation of their situation. "Captain, I'm detecting a massive energy buildup in the Zarantine flagship. It appears to be some kind of—" Her words were cut off as a blinding beam of energy lanced out from Zephyr's ship, slicing through human vessels effortlessly. "Evasive maneuvers!" Bryant shouted. The Odyssey banked hard, narrowly avoiding the devastating weapon, but the beam tracked them, closing in with terrifying speed. "Athena, emergency quantum jump!" Bryant ordered, his nucleus tightening as he gripped the command chair. "But sir, an untargeted jump could—" "Do it now." Reality itself seemed to twist and bend around them. For a heartbeat, the Odyssey existed in two places at once, and then they were gone, the energy beam passing harmlessly through empty space. They rematerialized seconds later, the ship's system sputtering and sparking from the strain. As the battle raged on, Bryant knew they couldn't keep this up forever. He turned to Admiral Hawkins, his face grim. "We need a new strategy," Bryant said. "Something they won't expect." Hawkins nodded, his eyes hardening with the gravity of their situation. "Gather the War Council. It's time to—" Bryant leaned over the holographic display, his eyes scanning the tactical readouts. The human fleet's recent victories had bought them time, but not enough. He turned to Admiral Hawkins, his face etched with worry. "We need a game changer," Bryant said, his voice low. "Something they won't see coming." Hawkins nodded grimly. "What do you have in mind?" Bryant's fingers danced across the controls, pulling up classified intelligence reports. The Phantom Squad uncovered rumors of a secret Zarantine research facility, deep in uncharted space. They're working on something big. "How big?" Hawkins asked, leaning in. "Planet killer big," Bryant replied. "If we can find it, we might have a shot at turning this war around." Hours later, the war room buzzed with activity as human leaders from across the colonies gathered. Bryant laid out his plan, pointing to a swirling mass of gases and energy on the star chart. "The facility is hidden somewhere in this nebula," he explained. "We'll use the Odyssey's stealth systems to slip past their defenses and infiltrate the base." Murmurs of concern rippled through the room. One of the colony leaders spoke up. "It's suicide. Even if you make it there, how will you get inside?" Bryant allowed himself a small smile. "That's where our new toys come in." He nodded to Chen, who activated a holographic display of sleek, form-fitting armor. Experimental stealth suits. They'll mask our biosignatures and let us move undetected on the station's hull. As the details were hammered out, Bryant assembled his strike team, the best of the best, seasoned veterans, combat engineers, and tech specialists. They spent days drilling, pushing themselves to the limit in anticipation of the mission ahead. Finally, it was time. The Odyssey slipped silently through the void, her stealth systems operating at maximum efficiency. On the bridge, Bryant watched the swirling gases of the nebula grow larger on the display. "Multiple contacts," the sensor officer reported. "Zarantine patrols on standard search patterns." Bryant's hands tightened on the arms of his chair. "Steady as she goes, nice and slow." For hours, they crept through the nebula, avoiding patrols and navigating treacherous pockets of volatile gases. More than once, alarms blared as spatial anomalies threatened to tear the ship apart. At last, they spotted it. A massive station, nearly invisible against the backdrop of swirling energy. Bryant turned to his strike team, his face grim. "This is it," he said. "Once we're inside, we'll have minutes at most before they detect us. Move fast, stay quiet, and watch each other's backs." The team nodded, faces set with concentration as they stepped onto the teleporter pad. In a flash of light, they materialized on the station's outer hull. Bryant's breath caught in his throat as he took in the alien landscape before him. Massive energy conduits pulsed with power, and in the distance, he could see the silhouettes of Zarantine guards patrolling the surface. Using hand signals, Bryant directed his team toward a nearby airlock. As they approached, a Zarantine soldier rounded the corner. Before it could raise the alarm, Chen struck with lightning speed. Her vibroblade sliced through the alien's exoskeleton, dropping it without a sound. Inside the station, alarms blared as the team fought their way through waves of Zarantine defenders. Energy bolts sizzled past Bryant's head as he dove for cover behind an alien console. "We need to find the main research lab," he shouted over the din of battle. "Hacker, can you access their systems?" The cyborg's fingers flew across an alien interface. "Working on it, Cap. These encryption protocols are unlike anything I've seen." Suddenly, the doors at the far end of the corridor slid open. A massive Zarantine warrior stepped through, its armor jam-packed with weaponry. Bryant's eyes widened as he recognized the distinctive markings of an elite guard. "Take cover," he yelled as the alien opened fire. The air filled with a storm of energy bolts, melting through metal and circuitry. Chen popped up from behind a barricade, hurling a plasma grenade. The explosion rocked the corridor, momentarily stunning the Zarantine warrior. Bryant seized the opportunity, charging forward with his particle rifle blazing. The elite guard stumbled backward, its armor smoking from multiple hits. With a final, well-placed shot, Bryant brought it down. "I'm in," Hacker called out triumphantly. "Main research lab is 2 levels down. But Cap, you're not going to believe what I'm seeing here." Bryant's blood ran cold as he looked at the schematics Hacker had pulled up. The world breaker loomed before them, a massive cannon easily capable of reducing entire planets to ash. "We need to shut this thing down," Bryant growled. "Plant the charges. We're taking this whole station with us." As the team raced through the facility, planting explosives at key structural points, Bryant couldn't shake the feeling that they were running out of time. His instincts proved correct as alarms began to blare throughout the station. "Our cover's blown!" Chen shouted, taking down 2 Zarantine soldiers with precision shots. "We need to move!" Bryant slammed his hand down on his communicator. "Odyssey, prep for emergency extraction. Things are about to get hot down here." The team fought their way back to the teleporter coordinates, Zarantine forces hot on their heels. As energy bolts sizzled past them, Bryant hit the detonator. The station rocked with a series of massive explosions, and klaxons wailed as systems began to fail. "Now, Odyssey!" Bryant roared into his comm. "Get us out of here!" In a blinding flash, the strike team materialized back on their ship. Bryant sprinted to the bridge, barking orders. "Full power to engines. Get us clear of the blast radius." The Odyssey surged forward, weaving through debris as the Zarantine station collapsed behind them. On the screen, Bryant watched with grim satisfaction as the World Breaker project went up in flames. But their victory was short-lived. As they cleared the nebula, alarms blared once again. "Multiple contacts," the sensor officer shouted. "Zarantine battleships dropping out of FTL all around us." Bryant's eyes narrowed as he took in the tactical display. They were surrounded, outnumbered, and in no shape for a prolonged fight. "Evasive maneuvers," he ordered. "Athena, plot us a course through that asteroid field. We'll lose them in the rocks." As the Odyssey dove into the dense cluster of space debris, Bryant knew their troubles were nowhere near the end. The Zarantine fleet gave chase, energy beams lancing out and vaporizing asteroids in their path. "They're gaining on us, sir," the helmsman reported, his voice tight with tension. Bryant's mind raced, searching for a way out. Then he saw it, a particularly dense cluster of asteroids dead ahead. "Full power to forward shields," he commanded. "We're going straight through." The Odyssey plowed through the asteroid field, her reinforced hull groaning under the impact. Behind them, several Zarantine ships weren't so lucky. Their hulls crumpled as they slammed into the massive rocks at full speed. But more enemy vessels poured in to take their place. A lucky shot from a Zarantine cruiser rocked the Odyssey, sending sparks flying across the bridge. "Hull breach on deck 4, an officer reported. "We can't take much more of this." Bryant gritted his teeth, knowing they were out of options. "Athena, prepare for emergency FTL jump. Get us back to the fleet." "Sir, at this range, an untargeted jump could—" "Just do it." Reality twisted around them as the Odyssey's FTL drive engaged. For a heart-stopping moment, Bryant thought they might tear themselves apart. Then, with a final lurch, they burst back into normal space. As the view screen cleared, Bryant let out a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. The assembled human fleet floated before them, a welcome sight after their harrowing escape. Admiral Hawkins's face appeared on the main display, his expression a mix of relief and concern. "Bryant, what the hell happened out there?" Bryant allowed himself a grim smile. "We found their secret weapon, sir, and we blew it straight to hell." Hawkins nodded approvingly. "Good work, but I'm afraid we've got bigger problems. While you were gone, we managed to capture a Zarantine shipyard. You're not going to believe what we found." As Hawkins briefed him on the captured shielding technology, Bryant's mind raced with possibilities. They finally had a chance to level the playing field. But he knew Zephyr wouldn't take this lying down. The real battle, Bryant realized, was just beginning. The Odyssey's engines pulsed as it docked with the flagship of the human fleet. Bryant strode onto the bridge of the massive vessel, his eyes scanning the bustling command center. Admiral Hawkins stood before a holographic display, his weathered face illuminated by the flickering lights. "Stephen, glad you made it back in one piece," Hawkins said, clasping Bryant's hand. "We've got work to do." For hours, they pored over tactical data, integrating the stolen Zarantine shielding technology into their defense plans. Engineers and technicians swarmed over the human ships, retrofitting them with the new systems. "It's not perfect," a gruff-voiced engineer reported, wiping sweat from his brow. "But it should give us a fighting chance against their heavy weapons." As the fleet prepared, Bryant pulled aside the leader of the Phantom Squad, a wiry woman with piercing green eyes. "I need your team to hit Zephyr where it hurts," Bryant said, pulling up a star chart. "These are his primary supply depots and comm relays. Take them out, and we might just throw his entire operation into chaos." The squad leader nodded, her eyes gleaming with anticipation. "Consider it done, sir." Days passed in a flurry of activity. The human fleet stood ready, a gleaming armada of newly fortified ships, but the expected Zarantine assault never came. Bryant paced the bridge of the Odyssey, unease gnawing at his gut. "Athena, any sign of Zarantine movement?" The AI's holographic form shimmered into view. "Negative, Captain. However, I am detecting an anomalous signal originating from deep within Zarantine space. It appears to be a human distress beacon." Bryant's head snapped up. "What? That's impossible. Show me." A star map materialized, revealing a distant, unfamiliar system. The signal pulsed faintly, barely detectable against the background noise of space. "It's coming from an uncharted world," Athena reported. "Historical records indicate a lost research outpost was established in that sector during the early colonial period." Bryant's mind raced with possibilities. A lost human outpost, surviving all this time in Zarantine territory. The potential intelligence alone could be invaluable. He turned to his executive officer. "Prep a task force. We're going in." Hours later, a small fleet of human ships, led by the Odyssey, slipped away from the main armada. They plunged into the heart of enemy territory, sensors straining for any sign of Zarantine patrols. Twice, they narrowly avoided detection, hiding in the wake of passing comets or the radiation shadows of gas giants. As they neared their target, the Odyssey shuddered violently. "Spatial distortion," the helmsman shouted. "Some kind of gravitational anomaly." Bryant gripped his chair as the ship bucked and heaved. "Steady as she goes. Push through it." With a final, wrenching lurch, they broke free of the anomaly. Before them lay a battered, war-torn world. And there, nestled in a crater on its pockmarked surface, stood an unmistakably human structure. "Life signs detected," Athena reported. "Approximately 24 humans, concentrated in the central complex." Bryant stood, his face set with fierce intensity. "Prepare for landing. Let's go meet our long-lost cousins." The Odyssey touched down near the outpost, kicking up plumes of alien dust. Bryant led a team across the barren landscape, weapons at the ready. As they approached the main airlock, it cycled open. A haggard-looking woman in a tattered lab coat emerged, her eyes wide with disbelief. "I'm Dr. Elena Voronova," she said, her voice hoarse. "We've been waiting a long time for rescue." Inside the outpost, Bryant's team found a treasure trove of advanced research. Dr. Voronova led them to a cavernous hangar where a sleek experimental craft stood. "The quantum slipstream drive," she explained, running her hand along its gleaming hull. "It can fold space-time, allowing for near-instantaneous travel across vast distances, but we lack the resources to complete it or evacuate." Bryant's communicator crackled to life. "Captain, we've got incoming. Multiple Zarantine signatures dropping out of FTL." He turned to Dr. Voronova, his expression grim. "Looks like our window just got a lot smaller. We need to move now." As alarms blared throughout the outpost, Bryant's team scrambled to secure vital data and equipment. Outside, the sky lit up with weapons fire as the human task force engaged the Zarantine attackers. Bryant led the Phantom Squad in a desperate push to clear a path to the landing zone. Energy bolts sizzled past, scorching the alien soil. They fought their way through waves of Zarantine troops, the air thick with the acrid smell of ozone and burning metal. Just as they reached the evacuation ships, a massive shadow fell over the battlefield. Bryant looked up to see a colossal Zarantine vessel descending through the atmosphere, its hull filled with weaponry. "It's Zephyr," he breathed, recognizing the distinctive markings of the alien leader's flagship. "And that's the Worldbreaker." A blinding beam of energy lanced out from the Zarantine ship, aimed directly at the Odyssey. Bryant watched in horror, certain his vessel was about to be vaporized. But the impossible happened. The Odyssey's newly installed shields flared to life, deflecting the devastating blast. The ground shook with the impact, but the human ship remained intact. "Now's our chance," Bryant shouted. "Everyone aboard! Athena, open a subspace rift." As the last of Dr. Voronova's team scrambled onto the ships, reality itself seemed to tear open before them. Without hesitation, the human vessels plunged into the swirling vortex, leaving the furious Zarantine fleet behind. They emerged in friendly space, battered but alive. As they reunited with the main human fleet, Dr. Voronova and her team immediately set to work, integrating their revolutionary drive technology into the Odyssey and other key vessels. Bryant watched the feverish activity, a glimmer of hope kindling in his chest. For the first time in this long, brutal war, humanity had a real chance to turn the tide. But even as they prepared for their newfound advantage, long-range sensors lit up with alarming data. Zephyr's armada was on the move, gathering for what could only be a final, all-out assault on the human worlds. Bryant's hands clenched at his sides as he stared out at the stars. The ultimate battle loomed on the horizon, and the fate of two species hung in the balance. The stars blazed with fury as the human and Zarantine fleets converged. On the bridge of the Odyssey, Stephen Bryant stood tall, his eyes fixed on the tactical display. The quantum slipstream drive hummed beneath his feet, a testament to human ingenuity and perseverance. "All ships, this is Admiral Hawkins," a gruff voice crackled over the comms. "Execute Battle Plan Theta. Hit them hard, hit them fast, and don't let up." Bryant nodded to his helmsman. "You heard the man. Let's show these bastards what we can do." The Odyssey surged forward, reality twisting around it as the slipstream drive engaged. In an instant, they were behind the Zarantine lines, weapons blazing. Energy beams lanced out, carving through alien hulls easily. "Multiple targets down!" the tactical officer shouted, her fingers dancing across her console, reorienting for another pass. Across the battlefield, human ships blinked in and out of existence, striking with brutal efficiency before vanishing again. The Zarantine fleet, caught off guard by this new tactic, struggled to mount an effective defense. Bryant watched as the Phantom Squad's sleek vessels darted between enemy ships, their weapons finding weak points with surgical precision. Explosions blossomed in the void, silent testament to the squad's deadly skill. Suddenly, the tactical display lit up with a massive energy signature. Bryant's blood ran cold as he recognized the telltale signs of the Worldbreaker charging up. "Evasive maneuvers," he barked. "All ships clear Sector 7. A blinding beam of energy erupted from Zephyr's flagship, cutting a swath of destruction through space. Entire squadrons of ships, both human and Zarantine, vanished in its wake. Bryant's heart made as he surveyed the damage. "Athena, plot us a course straight for that bastard's heart. We're taking the fight to him." The AI's holographic form shimmered into view. "Course plotted, Captain. I must warn you, the odds of success are—" "To hell with the odds," Bryant growled. "Execute." The Odyssey plunged into the slipstream once more, emerging in the midst of Zephyr's fleet. Caught by surprise, the alien vessels scrambled to react as the human supercarrier unleashed its full arsenal. "Direct hit on their port shields," the weapons officer reported, a fierce grin on his face. "They're buckling under the strain." Bryant allowed himself a moment of satisfaction before barking out new orders. "Concentrate fire on their aft section. Let's clip this bird's wings." The bridge rocked as return fire slammed into their shields. Warning klaxons blared as systems struggled to compensate. "Captain, we've got a problem," Athena's voice cut through the chaos. "The Worldbreaker is charging again. Target, us." Bryant's mind raced, weighing their options in a split second. "Emergency slipstream jump. Now!" Reality twisted violently as the Odyssey leapt away, narrowly avoiding the devastating blast. But as they emerged from the jump, the ship lurched sickeningly. "Multiple systems failing," an engineer shouted, his voice tight with panic. "The slipstream drive is offline. We're losing power across the board." Bryant's hands gripped the arms of his chair as he fought to keep his balance. Sparks flew from damaged consoles, and the acrid smell of burning electronics filled the air. "Status report," he demanded, his eyes scanning the flickering displays. "Hull integrity at 62% and falling," Athena reported, her normally calm voice tinged with urgency. "Life support systems compromised. We cannot sustain another direct hit." Bryant's chest tightened as the full weight of their situation hit him. He looked around at his crew, seeing the fear and commitment in their eyes. In that moment, he knew what had to be done. "All hands, this is the captain," he said, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. "Prepare for immediate evacuation. I repeat, all hands abandon ship." A stunned silence fell over the bridge, broken only by the sound of failing systems. "Sir," his executive officer protested, "we can't just—" "That's an order, Commander." Bryant cut him off, his tone brooking no argument. "Get everyone to the escape pods. I'll handle things from here." As the crew reluctantly filed out, Bryant turned to Athena. "Plot a collision course with Zephyr's flagship. We're going to take that son of a bitch down with us." The AI's holographic eyes met his, a flicker of understanding passing between them. Course plotted, Captain. It's been an honor serving with you. Bryant nodded, a lump forming in his throat. Likewise, old friend. Now let's finish this. As the last of the escape pods jettisoned, Bryant took manual control of the dying ship. The Odyssey's engines flared to life one final time, driving the wounded vessel straight towards the heart of the Zarantine fleet. Zephyr's flagship loomed before him, growing larger with each passing second. Bryant saw the Worldbreaker charging, its terrible energy building to a crescendo. Come on, you bastard, he muttered through gritted teeth. Take your shot. The Worldbreaker fired, its devastating beam lancing out towards the Odyssey. But the Supercarrier's shields, battered and failing, held just long enough. The blast glanced off, buying Bryant the precious seconds he needed. With a final defiant roar, the Odyssey slammed into Zephyr's ship. The universe seemed to hold its breath for a moment before both vessels erupted in a cataclysmic explosion. Bryant closed his eyes as the light engulfed him, a sense of peace washing over him in his final moments. He had done his duty. Humanity would survive. The shockwave rippled out across the battlefield, decimating what remained of the Zarantine fleet. As the light faded and the debris settled, an eerie silence fell over the stars. Human ships hung motionless, their crews watching in stunned disbelief as the remnants of the once mighty Zarantine armada turned and fled. Admiral Hawkins stood on the bridge of his flagship, tears streaming down his weathered face as he saluted the empty space where the Odyssey had made its final stand. Godspeed, Stephen, he whispered. You've saved us all. As the human fleet regrouped, the enormity of their victory began to sink in. They had done the impossible, turning the tide against an enemy that had seemed unstoppable. But even as they celebrated, the survivors knew that their work was just getting started. The galaxy was changing, and humanity would need to be ready for whatever challenges lay ahead. For now, though, they allowed themselves a moment to remember the heroes who had sacrificed everything to secure their future. The legend of the Odyssey and its valiant crew would live on, a shining beacon of hope in the vast expanse of space.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.